morning, everybody. To talk a little bit about some nuances in Jewish law. Just some interesting aspects of those nuances. There is a debate throughout the Talmud at many different issues, both within human beings and within other animals. Hayim uber yerach imayhu or uber lav yerach imayhu? Is an uber, a fetus, a limb of his mother, or is it not the limb of his mother? And perhaps the most consequential Mishnaic ruling is that when it comes to the mother's life, even a fully formed fetus would seem to have a definition of being the limb of the mother until birth, meaning once the head leaves the birth canal, or if it's a breached birth and 51% of the body leaves the birth canal, then that is a child. And until then it would seem, according to that Mishnah in Olos, that if the mother's life is in danger, whatever needs to be done, needs to be done. Now Maimonides understands it as follows. Because the Mishnah there, it discusses Ein doichen nefesh tachas nefesh, that once the child is considered born, meaning if the head or 51% of the lower body leaves the birth canal, and the head meaning, I would say until the neck, generally, that's what I was taught, that's the point where we say Ein doichen nefesh tachas nefesh. We don't that's the point where you cannot do anything not to save the mother's life or to save the child's life. You have to let nature run its course. If they both survive, they both survive. If one survives, then we do whatever we can at that point to save the life. If somehow they both die, of course it's horrific if even one of them dies. But we're talking in a legal realm here. And it would seem on the face of this that and perhaps it is so, that this is siding with the issue to say Yerach Uber Yerach Imayhu, that the fetus is a limb of the mother. And again, that's a matter of dispute, whether it's possible to also say Uber Lav Yerach Imayhu, that the fetus is an independent being and not a limb of the mother, and still understand this halacha, particularly, although not entirely, in light of what Maimonides understands it. That Maimonides says that when it comes to this issue, that the child being born, we talk about we have to protect innocent life, right? So the child that's being born at that time loses a certain amount of innocence because it has the din of the law of a rodef, of someone who is pursuing someone else to kill them. And so there's a loss of innocence there. I don't think I can fit over there. Ugh, why is this car making this noise? So that's what that would be the reason. However, once the child is born, then we could say ein doichen nefesh tachas nefesh, because they're both, meaning the mother is no threat to the child until they're at the point where the child is in the birth canal. Then, meaning the child might be threatening the mother, even though it's unconscious of that attack. But nonetheless, there's a loss of innocence, and so that is why, in order to rescue one, just like if someone is severely mentally ill and they're attacking someone else, in order to rescue the victim, even up until including lethal force could be used to protect the person from death in an ethical manner. However, that gets lost in this case at this point where we're talking about where the both lives are dangerous. So that's what we say, ein doichen nefesh tachas nefesh. In any event, the reason I'm bringing this up is that a lot of people are saying, based on this, that it is within the realm of that, because I don't like to use the term abortion for this case, because abortion, there's I think it's called the Dublin definition, that there's a difference between an abortion and a termination. The example often given as far as the Dublin definition is that what if we mention a pregnant mother has to undergo, let's say, some form of chemotherapy or another form of of radiation treatment for the machla, for cancer treatment, and that would cause the pregnancy to be terminated, even though that's not what they want to do. So in this case, or any other case, of course, obviously earlier in the pregnancy, these cases would therefore not be considered abortions, but rather terminations that are not intentional, unintentional terminations. So too in this case, or any case where the mother's life is in danger, that would not even be considered an abortion, but an unintentional termination for the sake of saving the mother's life. There it is healthcare, there it is a medical procedure. As horrific as it is, and unfortunate as it is, it could be compared to, even if we do say Uber Yerach Imohu, one cannot just, within Jewish law, merely cut off a finger or an arm. However, if the arm or the leg is gangrened and is threatening the life, so then it has to unfortunately be amputated medically, and then that's a healthcare issue. So, even within the realm of the political question of whether or not abortion or other terminations of pregnancies are healthcare, we of course can see the nuances of when it is and when it isn't. But I wanted to talk about something else. Again, often is brought up the religious issues, the religious right. And there's some religious fervor that often enters into this question. And I'm not going to get into the issues of paganism and human sacrifice, which I do believe have some connections to the fervor that exists in certain communities, and perhaps that's superimposed onto others even unwittingly. That's really what's behind a lot of this issue. But there's another issue about this, and that is that within the realm of Jewish law, when it comes to other medical issues discussed throughout the Talmud, a lot of the people who are saying that this is a religious rights issue will be among the first to say, that's the old times. This is a new age. The Reform and the Conservative, to a certain extent, have repudiated a lot of these issues. Even the Conservatives that work within a halachic framework and have not totally repudiated the Shulchan Aruch and the idea of halacha as the Reform have, and I'm using their own words, certainly in the Reform sense. Nonetheless, and both of those will be the first to say, this is a different era. We have to look at things through a modern lens. And I think we're going to have a serious conversation about this. And I'm not being imposing one side or the other. I just want to open up a conversation. Well, science has essentially proven, maybe not proven because there's more nuance in this question, halachically speaking, that uber lav yerach imohu. Meaning we have scientific knowledge say that we didn't have 1800 years ago when the Mishnah was redacted, or 1600 years ago when the Gemara was redacted, and it's quoting earlier sources. We have scientific knowledge today that would lean to the side that would say, Uber lav yerach imohu, that the fetus is not the limb of the mother. Why? Because we know genetically, as soon as it becomes a zygote, it is totally unique, scientifically. And so therefore, for someone to say otherwise, and say that this is a religious issue, then they're taking an issue of blind faith as far as an issue of controversy within the religious text that contradicts science. This is similar to within our religious texts. There are controversies as to between a heliocentric model of the solar system and a geocentric model of, it would seem, the entire universe. And science seems to almost, without any real debate, lean to the heliocentric model of the solar system, right? And it could also be argued between the flat Earth and the round Earth. And again, science as we know it seems to point to the round Earth. And so essentially, taking a religious stance on this question and relating it to abortion is the equivalent of being a flat earther. Meaning of saying Uber Yerachimohu, because our holy books say so, saying that the fetus is the limb of the mother, because our holy books say so, is like saying the earth is flat because our holy books seem to say so, or that the sun goes around the earth because the holy books seem to say so. Of course, it's a matter of perspective. It's a different issue. And so it's ironic that the people who would be the first to scoff at that and not even be open to any discussion on that take that same view with this particular issue without any questioning, and then apply it in places where the halacha never intended to apply, using abortion as a form of birth control as opposed to as in these rare cases where the mother's life is in danger, which are of course even more rare today because our science has gotten better, and the only times when it's not rare are in the same places where there's a racial disparity in the amount of abortions as well. Because I tend to say that the parties never flipped, and that this issue is really a racial issue, and that the Democrats really want to lynch black babies in the womb, and also in the Democrat-run cities, in the Democrat-run hospitals. That's the place where the black mothers are dying in childbirth because of the institutionalized racism on the left. That the left are actually killing black people, mothers and babies, through their policies, as well as through the proxy, I call lynching by proxy, black on black crime, that we have by removing police protections from the black neighborhoods. The Democrats are essentially increasing the number of black crime victims, and it's by design, and that is the institutionalized racism that comes out of the left, and not from our side, not from the side that brought about the lowest black unemployment, that reversed Roe versus Wade, and the same thing with the gun control issues. The big cities that being gun-free zones create, criminals don't ignore the signs, no matter what color they are. A sign that says a gun-free zone. It's not a racial issue, but the victimization and the overwhelming and disparate and disproportionate amount of black victims of crime that are caused by white Democrats, wealthy white Democrats who increase the institutionalized racism of the left. So all of these things should be discussed. I'm sorry, when I get to that point, I know that it is going to turn people off, but it's true. But it's also true that this insistence, when it comes, of Uber Yerachimohu, and that somehow means that abortion on demand should be the law of the land, which certainly is not no Jewish legal view supports such a thing. And to say that this is a religious rights issue is absolutely, probably even a kal vachomer, all the more so, a type of thing like a flat earther type of idea. Because we can see that the earth is round because of the eclipses. And we can also see, even measure on earth, also these other things. But there could be a little bit more debate. Even though, of course, I believe the earth is round, I believe the earth goes around the sun. But there is a little bit more room for debate. There is no room for debate. We can show anybody very clearly with the scientific means that we have here on Earth, that a zygote, from the point where it starts to develop, from the point where the egg is fertilized, it is lav yerach imohu. It is genetically totally different than a finger or a toe of the mother, and unique because it only has half of the mother's DNA and half of the father's DNA, and so it is genetically unique. So this is what we have to. So that's like to say otherwise, it's flat earther. It's geocentric. It's the equivalent of that, and even more so because it's clearly the science that uber lav yerachimohu. And so, all right, you want to take on this as a matter of faith, just like there are people who by faith believe the earth is flat. But it's the same people who scoff at the flat earthers, who scoff at the geocentrists, who hold on very tightly to this. And just showing the hypocrisy there. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later.